Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano, and this is the Bad News Network. This week's going to be a little different than most weeks in that I'm going to forego my normal snarky commentary about the news in the United States and the cesspool that is humanity, and we're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving and not being a piece of crap human being and our country. For those of you wondering, yes, this will be an officer speech. Well, BNN is fun and entertaining. We started it for two reasons. The first reason is that I can't believe that we live in a time where there is conservative news and liberal news instead of just news. I know why it happened. I understand the market forces that allowed it to occur. I understand that there are hundreds of venues for news now compared to the 4 that were around when I was a kid, and that with that competition, everybody has to fight harder and harder and harder for their tiny little slice of the American news-watching public. But I thought it would stop a lot earlier than it did now, and I realized that I was naive to think that way. Right now, people don't really know what's true, what's hyperbole, and what's an outright lie. For those of you that relish being informed, you realize how hard it is to actually cut through the noise and do research. And for those of you that don't really have the time or the inclination to research, you basically only get to hear exactly 2 arguments on any topic, without any depth or substance. Think about it. Let's take gun control, for example. You basically either hear the argument that nobody should own an assault rifle, whatever that phrase means, and that a person that thinks that they should own that kind of weapon, is overcompensating for something, is stupid, is a redneck, is a racist. And then on the other side, you have people that think literally everyone should be armed at all times, and all institutions should have to have armed security, and everything is a mental health issue, and there are no inherent issues associated with a responsibility for owning a weapon. There's no thought there. No one wants to be pushed. The money for pundits is in arguing with each other. The power for politicians is in having these big political debates where people can rally around the person that most closely is associated with what they believe and what they like. But no one is actually solving the problem. There's no money or power to be gained from that, so why do it? Here's another example. Let's talk about climate change. You only hear one of 2 opinions, either that climate change is largely because of man-made issues, or climate change is just a natural progression that happens over the course of millennia. Let's ask a different question. Who likes pollution? Is anyone going to say yes to that? If we don't like pollution, we can all agree we don't like pollution, then really what we should be talking about is how do we slow the rate of pollution and ultimately eliminate it over the course of time. Now you can get creative answers, now you can work towards a solution, but nobody wants to do that, again, because it's much easier to just pit one idea versus another idea, never trying to figure out what the core issue is. This is a problem, and for some reason we've allowed ourselves to get trapped into this world where there's A or B. I could keep going, but you get the picture. Many of you out there are really smart, and you tell yourselves, just like we do here, that we are unaffected by all of this noise. But the reality is that we are. You have to be. The more we hear stuff, the more that we allow people to talk about things in a certain way without any discussion or reflection, the more we start becoming indoctrinated in those ideas, even if we don't espouse them ourselves. So maybe you don't believe wholeheartedly in one side or the other, but I challenge you to ask yourself, have you started thinking about things that way? A silly example, if you'll indulge me, Nickelback. Everybody claims to hate Nickelback, but why? They have tons of hits, their concerts always sell out, but even if you don't like them, there are way shittier bands out there. Why is Nickelback always the butt of every joke? At some point, we just decided that Nickelback was a good punchline, and it just became that if anybody got caught listening to a Nickelback song, that everybody talked about it forever. In fact, I am very well aware that the fact that I'm talking about Nickelback right now will result in people telling me I like Nickelback probably for all time. This is harmless, but it really shows how quickly we get indoctrinated in something just through constant repetition. I don't even know when the whole idea of Nickelback sucking started, but everybody's in on the joke. The second reason we started BNN is that we believe that veterans have a responsibility to be a bastion of civility, rational thinking, and tolerance. We all served in a military that had incredible diversity, and I'm not talking about that in the way that social justice warriors talk about diversity, where the new romantic comedy coming out has to involve like an alien from Xenon 4 dating a black Jewish lesbian that used to be bi, but she's just not sure anymore if that's the way she wants to go. I mean it in the way that we are a true cross-section of America. The cornbread white kid from Iowa goes to the same basic training with the black kid from Oakland, the Hispanic kid from Miami, and you meet up with these people that you never would have had any interaction with otherwise, but suddenly you have each other's backs, you understand where each other is coming from, and you're out there defending the greatest country on earth. And the more time we spent together, the more we realized how silly some of the cultural, regional, racial differences that we all had were. And because of that, we here at Ranger Up are uncomfortable saying that veterans or patriots have to think or act a certain way. But we are saying that there is a way to interact. And that way is to make rational, intelligent, and respectful arguments and be open to the fact when you do so that sometimes you may be wrong. Try it this holiday, from now until Christmas, when people disagree with you on social media, in person, whatever, no matter how incendiary they get, try being nice. And if they're still total jerk after you've been nice time and time again, then just walk away. There's no reason to continue the discussion. When you're nice, most of the time people will talk to you. When you're nice, most of the time people will listen to you. And when you're nice, sometimes they might see your point where they might not have anyway. You're never going to convince anybody that they're wrong by telling them they're stupid, a jerk, a racist. That is never going to happen. You're never going to change their mind. And the other benefit of being nice is that when you're nice and somebody else is talking about some insane nonsense like trying to start a civil war or forcibly removing weapons from people's homes, they just look like idiots. And I need you to understand that this isn't good for business. The easiest and best thing that I could do for Ranger Up is to go hard right, to say, hey, if you didn't vote Republican, if you don't love Trump, then you suck, and to mock anything that's Democratic as weak and silly. But we won't do that. I always tell people that I'm a center-right conservative, and the reason I do that is because I want people to be aware of my biases. Try as I might, I grew up a certain way, I had certain life experiences, and I believe certain things. And I try very hard to be objective, but I know that I'm not going to be perfect. But I'm also very careful not to judge people off of politics alone, particularly because so many people believe the way they do based entirely on how their family and friends believe. Recently, multiple colleges banded together and did a study across a giant cross-section of Americans to see where they all stood on core issues. People agree 78% of the time on all core issues. 78% of the time, Americans believe essentially the same things. That doesn't sound anywhere near as bad as the news makes the world sound right now, does it? I mean, we keep hearing that this is the most divided the country has ever been, which is an absurd notion considering we've actually had a civil war. But we keep hearing it over and over and over again without any data, and now we're repeating it. Why? Ranger Up is a patriotic company that supports the military, veterans, first responders, and the patriotic people that support them. We do not have a party affiliation, and our goal has always been to be as honest as we can be with the people that support us and to put America first no matter what. That's why we started BNN. We've hired conservative veterans, liberal veterans, straight veterans, gay veterans, black veterans, Hispanic veterans, non-veterans, and yes, as much as I hate to admit it, even the unwashed, crayon-eating Marine veterans. The thing that they all have in common is that they love this country, love each other, and want to serve and give back to this great nation. And I'm incredibly thankful for every one of them. So give that some thought this Thanksgiving. Grab some turkey, some yams, some stuffing, and if you're one of those weirdos on the West Coast, some salad. I don't know what that's all about. Throw some Nickelback on because I don't care who you are, every person on the planet sings along to Rockstar. And try to be nice to someone. You might like it. Happy Thanksgiving. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano, and this was the Bad News Network. Next week, I'll be back to being a total sarcastic a-hole.